As much as we may want to believe that at the heart or core of everyone is at least some good, or that having compassion, kindness, and empathy, even for those who don't bestow the same upon you, is ultimately the best solution or way to go about handling anything, unfortunately, no matter how convinced we are in this belief, or how much we genuinely feel is the right thing to do, doesn't make it any more true than a narcissistic psychopath believing that they are the MVP of the human race and therefore are entitled to do as they please without having any consequences for their malevolence. Just as it doesn't make them any more treatable or their behaviors any less dangerous or malicious from political and psychiatric leaders reframing their behaviors to be viewed through the lens of a mental illness versus that of an individual with moral failings, as they always have been defined and described as being since the beginning of mankind, that was intentionally done to promote this belief that we all have, as it's far more likely for one to want to extend compassion, kindness, and empathy to an individual that is seen as having a mental illness or a personality disorder versus someone who is immoral with a total disregard for others and feels that they are inclined to do whatever the fuck they want, because science is not based off of authoritative figures enforcing their opinion and refusing to change this, because the reality is it doesn't matter how much love, attention, affection, compassion, or empathy you give to one of these individuals. It is never going to be enough, because narcissists do not think and behave like you. They do not view others, themselves, or the world in the same manner. Their behaviors are not driven by the same motivational factors, and the goals that they aim to achieve through communication, as well as the intentions behind their words, to most be considered completely ass backwards. As such, trying to get your point across, resolve conflict, or even just hold a basic casual conversation with a narcissistic psychopath in the same way that you would go about with anyone else, or to try to make sense or understand something that they said or did from the same mental toolbox that you typically would, will not work. It will not get through to them with a mouse. It will not get through in a house. It will not change them with a fox. It will not change them in a box. Ain't no way, ain't no how that love, kindness, compassion, or empathy are going to have any effect on their God I am complex, and why this belief is so hard to let go of, or why we cling to it, even after you have come to the realization that everything out of their mouth is nothing more than a never-ending river of bullshit, or a projection of their own deplorable chaos. It still is almost impossible to not take personally, and definitely not after just being discarded, leaving them or still held captive inside of their torture pit. It's as miserable as these evil fuckers can make your everyday life feel. Having to face the brutal, harsh reality of it all is truly one of the hardest crosses that you will have to bear in this lifetime, because facing this reality comes with the shame and embarrassment that this will inevitably create from being fundamentally betrayed to such a degree that will only enhance your self-doubt and ability of trusting your own instincts or judgment, on top of their gaslighting you to already feel like everything was your fault, that now you just want to self-isolate after having been isolated from your family and friends for so long, and their use of triangulation and smear campaigns. It's like you have nowhere to go or anyone to turn to or help snap you out of these limited beliefs that they have implanted into your psyche. Not to mention how much you have invested your life, your love, and your time into this person. Having to face this harsh reality of will only again make you feel more or foolish for what feels like wasting your life for nothing, as it all was nothing but a big list of lies, fraud, and deceit, which can go without saying is a real SOB to try to navigate or get your head wrapped around. The monstrosity of cluster fucked upness to fully be able to accept in its entirety, as not only have you been mentally pounded into the pavement and your self-esteem and confidence chucked into the wood chipper, and so much brain fog from the confusion that it honestly feels like it may as well be a coin toss, as if it would be better to just dig a hole and crawl into it, or lost alone in the dark wearing Lady Gaga's meat dress surrounded by a pack of ravenous hyenas. Nobody in their right mind wants to have to face that music or that type of pain. And one of the reasons that an attempt to avoid getting this sucker punch in the gut of a wake-up call that this reality will bring, we cling on to this belief that there must be some good inside of them, or that if you just have more love, compassion, kindness, or empathy, that eventually they'll be able to see things differently, or justify it to ourselves so that it doesn't feel so painful to think that you have been used for years or decades by someone while you were defending their back. They were intentionally, deliberately, and repeatedly stabbing you in yours, and therefore convincing ourselves they will never find someone better, or thinking that one day they're going to regret what they've done. As hard as it is to hear, and as much as it hurts, they're not. Because again, they do not think and behave the same way that you do. It is never going to inspire them to even consider themselves the one in need of changing. Because without theory of the mind, or seeing others as their own entity or own individuals with feelings and emotions of their own, and their black and white mentality way of thinking from not having any object constancy, love, compassion, empathy, or anything of intrinsic meaning or value is legitimately like trying to speak language that they don't understand, nor do they have any desire to learn it, or even think that it's something worth learning. Because these individuals do not give a single fuck about anyone but themselves. Truly has nothing to do with a disordered personality, but rather a total disregard for others, a complete lack of morals. And it doesn't matter whether you call them a narcissist, psychopath, evil, corrupt, or a two-faced, vindictive, conniving, double-standard douchebag, as it literally will not change or affect them because they don't view you as a person. But furthermore, it's not going to change the way that they think and behave. To which I personally found myself dealing with just this very morning. As much as I wanted to rip him a new asshole, had to remind myself to not, one, give him the satisfaction because, well, fuck that. But two, because it was not going to have any effect on him or his life, but would eventually down the road or later on only make me angry or upset with myself for once again being led down this same rabbit hole or falling for this trap. And why? It doesn't matter how much you think you may be able to handle it. It's almost impossible to not take personally, especially in the heat of the moment, because they know damn well what buttons to push, to which is precisely the very reason that they're pushing them in the first place. Only way to deal with one of these individuals is to simply don't. Because we can't just turn off the way that we think or change the fact that we do have empathy, that we do have intersubjective understanding, and that we are inclined to want to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially someone who you have invested your life into and does not make you a monster to cut them off, whether they are your mom, your husband, your uncle, or your boss, because they don't want your help. They don't want to be saved. They don't want your love, nor do they give two shits about empathy or compassion. They'll take your pity, sure. They'll eat it up and feed off it, just because it makes them feel powerful, not because they truly care or because they ever did. And accepting the fact that it is completely out of my control and that there is truly nothing that I or anybody else could do to change it. Getting to that point of not only being able to say, fuck them and fuck that, but truly believing it is beyond liberating. Not to say that everybody has to go around dropping F-bombs. However, it does, in this situation, feel damn good. And I'm not gonna lie, proud of myself for getting to the point that I can, because there is no correct way to heal or go about healing. The important part about healing is that you do. So anything that you find helpful or works for you, do it. And do it as many times a day as it takes, because you are worth it and you deserve the life that these people had no right to take. So fight for you. Save you, because you are absolutely, without question, deserving of living the life that you were born to live and getting back your sanity and your freedom. Focus on you. Fuck the narcissist, or whatever you want to call them.
Good when it make you move, make your next move your best move.